Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 745. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today I have my regular co-host, Bob Plankers. Today is Wednesday, October 29th, 2025. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. We're getting a little late start here. If you're on the stream, we've had some technical difficulties switching over to the new StreamYard, but we're getting it figured out. But other than that, things are good. The weather is nice. It's sunny. I'm sunny. What the heck, And so we've got some good people on with us today. I'm excited for all of this.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And, let's just do a moment of go Broadcom. Broadcom has selected StreamYard, our podcasting platform, as the Broadcom podcasting platform of choice. So they're supporting it, and we become the podcast go-to people within all of Broadcom, and we get to use the tool we're used to using. So go us, right? And go Broadcom, because now we've got an enterprise StreamYard account, which we're allowed to use, and Bob and Corey and myself can all be admins, and that's a good thing.
High definition now. Woo.
Yeah, high definition.
All the gray in my beard. Yes. So.
I was looking at my backdrop going, oh my gosh, my garage office here. You can see all the papers on the desks now, and that's a little bit spooky. But one of the good things is they're also fixing all the blockages on the networking, because we are now a Broadcom official tool, so that we can actually podcast at work, right? So that's also
for those of you that have witnessed the silliness over the last few months of trying to get people on campus
on campus, people in their cars streaming off their iPhones. It has been an exciting last year as we tried to avoid getting shut down, and then tools, and so it's exciting. On the show today, we've got Eric Sloof, a longtime community member and advocate, and exciting to have him on to talk about NSX-Manager. He did a great blog, how to the NSX-Manager Cluster Outage, like how to manage an outage if your NSX-Manager cluster goes down. So he had a pretty cool blog article on that, so we've invited him on to talk about that. But before we do that, let's do a drive-by to Utah. Corey Romero, how's it going out there?
Everything's going great in Utah, Eric. It's fantastic. The weather has gone pretty cold, and starting to get snow.
All right. Well, there you go. I know that you're busy with the expert nominations coming up in December. It's kind of strange. A year's almost gone through. Here we are. Shout out also to the virtual event. VMUG virtual event is happening next week. Yep, on the 6th.
Yes.
And I want to say the 7th, but I'm not sure. I think there is a 6th is the all-day virtual event, multiple streams happening. I'm doing a presentation for that on VMUG Advantage 9.x. So, but everybody's going to be kind of there. I know they have several thousand people signed up for that guy, and I think that is coming up next week, right? So, because we're coming into the first week of November, so exciting times. Well, watch out for that. Go sign up for it. They've got dual tracks, keynote speakers, nice online event, some drill downs on 9 that haven't happened yet, so there will be some new content out there. So and then they are doing instructor-led labs on the 7th, I believe. So the 6th is the all-day event, dual stream, and then if you're an Advantage member, you get a free HOL 9 HOL labs on the 7th, and if not, I think it's a discount or $50 for an instructor-led lab. Spaces are limited, I think, so watch out for that. But shout out to that, and then also Germany, I think, is coming up in November. So
Frankfurt.
Eric,
Frankfurt.
You were telling me earlier that you're going to be there, right?
Indeed, I will go there. Yes.
Excellent.
It's a 2-day event, and they also have a certification booth, so you can do an exam right there. And there's a VMUG party.
Excellent.
Yes. Yep. And all of these guys have been well attended. We talked last week about how they're all above attendance levels. So exciting to everybody in country. And it'll be interesting to see the feedback of having your own country event versus going to Barcelona, right? I know that some people miss Barcelona, but now that they've been going on tours, they're like, it works. You get the content.
It's 2 days instead of 3, but the price is much lower and it's closer, it's nearby. So we will see how it works out.
Yes, yeah, it worked out. I know that the event team is excited about it, and they're working on 2026 plans, right? So I think there will be more of the same. And go to the VMUG virtual event in November. They're going to do some announcements on what they're going to be doing next year as well, not only in Europe but in the US, right? Similar kind of formatted events, so should be interesting. Yeah, good to do that.
Also, if you're an APJ and you're a vExpert, I sent out an invite for the vExpert exclusive APJ, vExpert, and VMUG community meeting with Krish Prashad and VMUG's Brad Tompkins. So if you've missed that invite somehow, look in your emails. The latest one I sent out was October 28th at 5:36 a.m. UTC time.
And if you're not familiar with who Krish is, he's the head of the entire VCF division. So he's our boss. He's basically one notch down from from Hawk Tan. Everyone talks about Hawk, but Krish is the head of our operation here. So hearing from him is always interesting, and he's always got good news to pass along, stuff that's changing, our vision for things. He's the guy with the vision. So
also, one other thing, if you're feeling like you haven't done enough for vExpert this year, I know applications are going to be coming up, opening in mid-December, or you just haven't started contributing at all this year, don't worry, it's not too late. You can still make an impact by starting your blog today, creating videos. You can find all kinds of different ways to give back to the community and share your knowledge. I have a blog post coming out very soon with tips on this exact topic. And once the article is ready, I'll post it on blogs.vmware.com/vExpert. It'll go out on Twitter on the vExpert handle. It'll go out on my LinkedIn channel, and it'll go out through Broadcom social media advocacy. So keep an eye on that. And once it goes live, I'll push it out to everywhere.
Very cool.
Very nice. Very nice.
Okay.
All right. With that introduction, and we'll do what we do with our guests. Eric, we'll normally do community podcasts. Tell us a little bit about your career arc, and then what do you do now, and how did you get here? So you get like 2 or 3, 4 minutes here. Tell us what you've been up to and how you get here.
So Bob, Corey, and Eric, great for inviting me. Thanks for having me. A short introduction from my side. I've been a VMware certified instructor for ages. And about 2 years ago, the whole training course delivery dried up a little bit because Broadcom is handing out those training courses for free. So I had to jump to another job. And luckily, the Dutch police wanted to have me as a consultant. So for 1.5 years, I'm now working actually with the products I used to teach, and it's nice to have that experience because when I'm teaching a product in a class, I know all the nifty details and everything the product can do, but not actually experience in real life what the product actually does. So searching through log files, troubleshooting, design sessions in a production environment is great. And on top of that, I'm able to teach new colleagues how the stuff works actually on their current environment. So I still do a little bit of training course delivery. Recently, I've delivered one of the first VCF9 training courses for Broadcom. So I'm trying to mix that a little bit with consultancy, which works out great. I've been around for a long time. My blog is around 20 years old. I recently did an upgrade of the look and feel. So I've invented how you can use a cascading style sheet, feed it to AI, and then get something beautiful back, and that actually works quite well. So I've revamped my my website a little bit. I used to do some recordings. Of course, you know me from VMworld TV back in the days with Jeremy and Jordi Korte and the whole crew.
Yeah,
you from Explorer this year too. You were in that the video for the Explorer keynote, weren't you?
Yes, indeed. In the deleting video, I was finally on the big stage with Duncan and some of the other V experts.
I knew I recognized you, Eric, but you just look so much older now. What happened?
Well, he said 20 years. His blog is 20 years old.
20
I'm
years
like,
old.
Yeah,
and then I'm like, oh, mine is
yeah.
20 years old too. Crap.
I tell all the parents when I'm in 12th grade and my kids went through high school, I meet the parents at these graduation events, and that was my running joke. I'd be like, "Hey, I remember you from kindergarten. Damn, you look way older now." Like, which that's life, right? We are, right? It's great to see you again, right? Great to have you on.
Great.
And
Thank
hey,
you.
I understand that your blog trended because you got that AI beautiful blog going now, right? Everybody's attracted to it, right?
Yeah. Indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
But I still use a very old content management system, but it's
and
shiny now.
one other comment on your introduction, which I find interesting, is I near retirement age. I'm 63, be 64 this year. Maybe I'm here for 3 or 4 more years. At some point, maybe I'll keep going forever. I just look so beautiful and young, but I don't feel young. But I've always thought maybe it'd be fun to go back and work a little bit in a data center just to see, because I worked in a data center when I started my career, and we've spent so much time talking about it, but unless you get back out into a data center and then use it and experience it, it would be fun to do that for me, right? Just rewarding to see how far off I is in my mentality and how it works versus what you actually face in a day-to-day, like you say, log files and figuring out what's actually happening.
Yeah, but
At scale.
I have to get used to the whole business process. If I want to change something, I have to write a change request, and then I have to go to an advisory board, and I have to defend that request, and it takes days before I can change something. So it's not something like you do in your lab and you just switch something and you look if it works. Because
turns out
there is
there's
a
people
chance that
relying
you
on
can
it.
break
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Well, and
So
especially the
that's
police too. That's a very operationally. They need
yes.
their stuff to be up and running in a
Mhm.
consistent and known state all the time. And so,
Yeah.
what's it like
And
working for the
then
police?
we have this whole Scrum thing I had to get used to with all the colored
Yes.
labels and the
Mm-hmm.
Oh
sprints
yeah.
and that was something new for me. What's like working for the police?
Yeah.
Well,
You.
it's you're constantly on a high alert, so you should be very careful with patches. When there is a high patch, it's implemented immediately. So it's the most secure environment I ever saw.
You beat me to my punch, because I was going to say I bet security is a lot
Yes.
different now than it
Yeah.
was when I was running things. Yeah.
And you're not able to bring anything in. It's a dark side, so it's completely isolated from the outside. I can't tell too much, but you can imagine that it's very strict, and you have a special process of screening by the government if you're fit to fulfill the job. And
So they missed your criminal background, clearly.
yeah. I had to delete some tweets.
Don't we all?
As we all have. Trust
Yes.
me. Yes, I've had to delete shows, right, and blogs, and yeah, yep, yep.
Nope.
It happens.
No proof of that. What? Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So, the next thing, a great introduction to, you've been here forever and we've known you forever, and it's great to have you back on the show. VCF 9, let's talk a little bit about that first. Are you guys in VCF 9 yet? Are you migrating to VCF 9? I know your NSX-Manager Cluster Outage was VCF. I'm not sure it was 9 or 5.x or 8. Like, I was just curious where you are with regard to what you're investigating in the blog article versus what you guys are running at the police station. And maybe you're not allowed to say, but
the thing is that when you have a data center and you are planning on using it for another 4 or 5 years, there will be a point that vSphere 8 is not supported anymore. So you have to switch to VCF 9. As soon as you upgrade to vSphere 9 or NSX 9, the licenses come from the fleet manager. So July 2027 will be the point that we need to we have to go to another version. So that's on the roadmap. We have talks with Broadcom about how we can go to that new version. There are a lot of changes. The article I've written was about NSX 4, and I think that's the version that is most used by a lot of customers still.
Yeah.
And VCF 9 is still on 9.0, so we don't implement any .0 versions.
Well, technically it's 9.0.1
Well,
now.
yes,
Now you
yeah,
can implement it. So
yeah.
yeah. So
But I can't be too specific with when and which
Yeah, what?
version.
Yeah, sure.
But we are definitely looking at it. Yes.
Yes. Right. All right.
I,
So
I agree that the 4 revisions of NSX are the most popular. Like, there's a lot of change in 9. And so people are a lot of people are waiting. They're, if they've got a new implementation, they've got something new that they're building, 9, no problem, because they can try it out and things. But for people that have existing clusters, how do you upgrade that? They're doing the same thing you're doing, which is kind of sitting, waiting, seeing how it works, especially with 9.1 coming and things like that. What's going to change? There's a lot of change afoot here. So
indeed.
So let's talk about your blog for a minute. What is the name of your blog? We'll do a shout out of that so people can find it.
It's ntpro.nl, and the funny story is that when I started blogging, I was a Windows guy, and Windows NT was the main version back then, 4.0. So I figured, well, let's call the blog ntpro.nl. So that's one of the blogs that doesn't have a V in there, because I was way before the V time. But it's new technology. NT stands for new technology. When you go into the dynamic link libraries in Windows, you will still see the reference to NT. So and even though the extension is .nl, the whole website is in English. So and again, it's running for 20 years, and I used to post a lot, but these days it's 2 or 3 articles a month, and they're a bit lengthier as they used to be. It used to be more news, but they're now a bit more in depth. And it's a nice way to get in touch with people. Yes.
So what
on passing your exam here, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what inspired you to write NSX-Manager Cluster? Did you guys have an outage, or what got you started writing?
I think I should avoid telling too much specifics about
sure,
the
of course, yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
But in my laboratory environment, I had this issue, and you know that a cluster of NSX managers consists of 3 nodes, and as long as you have a majority, you're okay. Every node in the cluster has a management plane and a control plane, and the control plane is responsible for keeping the tab tables, the IP tables, the MAC tables. The control plane knows what happens in your environment, and so I was worried about losing that control plane, because I was thinking that virtual machines should not be we're not able to reach each other anymore. So I filed a support request at Broadcom, and we figured out what actually happened, because it was not very detailed in the knowledge base articles. So when you lose the majority in an NSX management cluster, and you still have one surviving host, then you only have 33% of the vote. So it will shut down completely. You are not able to log on to the UI. It doesn't have a control plane, and the database will also stop. And so the Corfu database is the mechanism that's responsible for clustering the managers together. And the Corfu database is simply not able to replicate to other instances anymore. And you will lose the ability to use vMotion. And when you power on a VM, NSX is normally responsible for creating a port on the switch, on the NSX managed switch. But when the control plane is not available, the port is not able to be created either. So you cannot power on VMs, and you are not able to migrate VMs with vMotion. But the VMs that are still running in your environment, they are normally sending traffic, and the traffic is encapsulated into Geneve. and that's also done by NSX. But the whole control panel is gone, so the whole encapsulation process doesn't take place anymore, or at least the lookup for the remote VM is normally done with ARP suppression, and since you don't have an NSX manager, ARP suppression is also lost. But what eventually happens is that the VM is able to send an ARP request through the switch, and it will be sent to all the other VMs in the same layer 2 network. So that's so you will have connectivity, and even though the local control plane, when it runs out after 300 seconds, because those entries are cached, VMs are still able to find each other through ARP forwarding, more or less. So that's a good thing. So the existing VMs won't lose any connectivity. When that situation happens, you can put your NSX Manager into singleton mode. So when you put your manager in singleton mode, it is revived. It's not highly available, but you have a management plane and a control plane back. The other two managers that were disconnected should be deleted. So you are not able to reuse them. You have to redeploy the NSX Manager instances, and then you are able to join the existing
part of the
manager.
cluster again.
Yes, and then you can reform the cluster, and then you have your cluster again.
Redeploying them is not, that's an automated process, right? You have to give it a couple IPs and things like that, but but that's not a whole lot of trouble, right?
You can do it from the UI. So when you go to your management cluster and you click the box, add another NSX instance, you have to provide a few IP addresses and a password, and then it's automatically deployed based on an OVA file. The OVA file is on your first manager.
Okay.
And after the OVA file has been deployed, it will automatically join your management cluster. What I experienced is that if you use that method, your first NSX manager knows that the second one has been deployed through the UI, and it will be registered in the database, and it will be tied to a vCenter server. So what I always do is deploy it manually by hand from the OVA file, and then join the NSX management cluster through the command line. So you don't have any reference to a vCenter server. If you want to renew your vCenter server, or you have to reinstall it and give it another host name, it's still tied to that vCenter server, and that can be
That makes a
bit
lot of sense. Yeah.
annoying sometimes. So the command line is your best option, and you have a special join command which allows you to join the Corfu cluster.
Well, and NSX has got a pretty robust command line there, coming from the network world where the network engineers and all that, those folks are used to CLIs, it's the NSX. I think the NSX, in my opinion, the NSX command line is overlooked in many cases and underrated. So that's really cool that to hear that
it's good you say that, because I think that you should only use the command line for troubleshooting, but deploying edges or creating logical networks or deploying tier 0 and tier 1 gateways, we have to switch to for instance, Terraform. So infrastructure as code, you should not click any tier 1 or tier 0 gateway through the mouse. I think that in a large environment, the only way is through a JSON file. That's
I tend to agree
what
with
we
you,
have in VCF.
And your mention of large environment there, and so what's the, it's kind of an art figuring out how big of an environment you want to be in, because a small, before you switch to these sorts of automation tools and that, because you end up trading time, like instead of just doing the thing, you now are maintaining the tool that does the automation, at a certain smaller level that doesn't make any sense. But once you get past a certain scale, that's a better way to do it. So,
yes, indeed. Yeah. But also for rebuilding in case of a disaster, when you want to rebuild your environment, but again, VCF is able to do that automated. You have to feed it the JSON file, and then you can rebuild your complete environment.
Yeah. The VCF installer is nice in that regard. So
yeah.
I see we have Eric back.
Yeah, yeah.
Vector.
I did have a question, and I assume you guys can hear me okay.
We can.
Oh, good. So I'm sure you didn't get into like why did 2 of the 3 nodes drop out to begin with? Was did somebody kick a cable out, or like I would assume that you would have to have some pretty good practices to make sure you didn't have your 2 of 3 node NSX clusters disappear on you, right?
Yes, you're spot on. You have to put them on different fault domains. So make sure that the managers are running on different clusters or even in a different data center. And that can be a bit of a challenge when looking at VCF9, because in VCF9 you have your management domain and you put all your NSX managers in the management domain, and that's your single fault domain, your single point of failure. I even had having some trouble with the design of the management domain, because if you put it on vCent storage, and vCent storage is backed by one VLAN ID, and you have all your NSX managers of all your workload domains in your management domain, including all the vCenter servers, and you lose that VLAN ID of vCent, all your hosts are isolated. You lose your vCent network, and all your VMs are powered off. So there are some challenges with the whole VCF9 deployment, especially regarding the design. So it's based on the validated design of VMware, but I think you still have to think about what can happen in my data center. Where should I put my NSX managers? Maybe you have to choose for fiber channel storage in your management domain, because that's more robust. You don't have a single point of failure like the VLAN ID for the transport network of vCen. There are definitely some challenges to think about. I don't know, Bob, what's your opinion about that?
Yeah, I agree. Vendor design guidance often does not reflect the political or the human realities of environments, and is often an idealized version, but to your point, having some isolation, even not even fiber channel necessarily, but some isolation. And I'm sitting here thinking about, back when I was doing this stuff directly as a customer and in your position, the day-to-day changes to the network would sometimes cause problems, like human errors, people, removing a VLAN, to your point, removing a VLAN from something that VLAN shouldn't be removed from, just accidentally, or even just spanning tree recomputing, the little micro outages when something changes and spanning tree has to recompute its stuff. Rapid spanning tree still is noticeable at times. And so having some isolation there so that, changes to the normal, organization-wide network don't screw up your storage, don't screw up the transport in that. And so I agree with you. The design, thinking about that and thinking about that isolation, even especially I'm a security guy, and so isolation is kind of my thing anyhow. And so it kind of goes hand in hand there, and yeah, I agree. But fiber channel, I'm a big vSAN fan myself, but yeah, again, thinking about the redundancy there, having redundant networks, the ability to communicate even if somebody screws up your main network, that's something to think about. So
Yeah, and talking about NSX, the vDefend security in NSX is perfect, but if you are looking at a management network, you might want to step away from the vDefend security, because then you got the chicken and the egg problem. If you disconnect all your NSX managers, you're not able to fix the problem anymore if they're disconnected from the local control plane of your ESX host. I've seen environments where they were stepping away from using vDefend with the distributed firewall on the management network to avoid creating a situation where NSX is not able to manage that traffic anymore, and you have to switch back to VLAN IDs, and that can be a real challenge. So that's
one of my
some.
favorite questions ever has been, what happens when it's all off? And I've had engineers at VMware ask me, why would it all be off? Stuff happens. All kinds of stuff happens. Power outages, kick a cable, whatever, UPS dies and goes offline, takes everything with it. and so being mindful of your dependencies. How are you going to get back in? To your point, how are you going to get back in to turn on vCenter and turn on the NSX managers if that's the way that you get in, and if those things are protecting that stuff. So you end up creating backdoors for yourself, but then again, you don't want to create that's got to have the same amount of security or more security than the other path, and so you end up with two separate ways. There's the VCF administrator's way, and then there's everyone else's way in.
Yeah. Indeed. But coming back to your question, Eric, the reason why the whole cluster was lost was because of a GDK bug, and it was consuming memory until the point where the memory was occupying the space that the database would like to use. So that's when the managers got killed. So yeah.
All right. I have, not to pick on you, Eric, but I have one other. I noticed in the blog, you didn't go into the architectural kind of like, hey, this is the kind of things you might need to avoid this. You just went, hey, if this happens, this is the recovery, right?
Yeah.
You could, I see a version 2 of this blog where you could actually talk about how to avoid what actually happened to begin with. Right?
Around this,
because I read the blog and I'm like, okay, but I have no idea why or how, or anything about what happened. You're just like, hey, this happened, and everybody wanted to know because your blog article trended, right? And people liked the topic, but it didn't give you a lot of like what happened, right, or what to avoid, or kind of the architectural component of it. So it is cool that you had a memory overrun in your DB and your DB crashed, and that was the end of that, right? So interesting. And then what to do to avoid it, and Bob would give me a book on what to do to avoid every possible risk out there, right? Because that's what Bob does. He does. If you say security,
I will take that. Well, security is 3 things: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And we're talking about, all of those here, really, but availability is a big part. And we always forget about that from a security perspective. But, and so one of the things I've been doing lately, we've got this thing known as the VCF Experience Day and the Experience Workshop. And part of that, I've created a bunch of security content for those workshops. And one of the things that I did was include vMotion and DRS and HA and stuff like that in there, because we don't talk about it, but that's a big part of, and people are like, why are we talking about this? There's a thought that it's basic, but there's a lot of new people in our ecosystem. And
well, go ahead. Yeah, the other thing that I'm noticing, and the reason I bring it up, is that there's a lot of people like myself that are now learning NSX and vSAN that had just deployed vSphere, and they're like, I'm like, okay, what do I need to learn about all of these topics? And it is an architectural approach too.
Yeah, and even just considering DRS rules, people don't think about DRS rules and that, or they think about DRS rules. They create, so like NSX managers. We actually have in our hardening guidance now, or the security configuration guide, the idea of making sure that there's that you've got some availability if you've chosen a clustered way of deploying NSX manager or the SSO, the VIDB, and all of some of these other components. If they're clustered, make sure that there's DRS rules to keep them separated, and even one step further is use instead of in DRS where you can create an anti-affinity rule, keep all of them separated on different hosts.
Sure.
Instead of saying must, make it a should, so that it doesn't interfere with patching, and all of this stuff. It seems obvious when you say it, but actually writing it down and having people look at it and go, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and that, that's the power of like Eric's blog, for example. Make people think about the stuff that they've just assumed, a network in their data center is a dial tone. It's not that anybody understands dial tone anymore, but but it's just there. It's ubiquitous. It's just, but what if it weren't? And that's the gears. Those are the sorts of things that when you start thinking about it, well, one, you end up a pessimistic bastard like myself, always looking for how it's going to go wrong. But, but you start being able to prepare, and that's the leveling up in your your designs and your career even too. So I don't know. These are important topics.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
So Eric, you've now watched the transition as we're moving to VCF, right? Other areas that you're thinking might be interesting, right? Like from a standpoint of everybody knowing vSphere, implementing vSphere, then vSAN, now NSX, now the whole stack, operations, fleet management. Are you seeing other places that you're going to then, need to educate people on?
Yes, indeed.
Having come from education, I thought we would
yeah.
do that
So
transition a little bit.
I've written the exam, the VCP VCF admin exam, and I was a little bit surprised by the amount of questions I've got regarding VCF automation and VCF operations. I know a lot of people are not actively using those products. Bigger companies are, but it's now an essential part of the whole product. And the questions were heavy on those topics. So normally when you want to get a VCP for VCF admin, for instance, you simply attend one training course, the install, configure, manage, or the manage, deploy,
Yep.
secure, and then you're okay. But I think in this case you have to look at all products. So vSphere, vSAN, and NSX is not enough anymore. You have to include VCF automation and VCF operations, and especially because VCF operations is now the main management tool. The whole fleet management has transitioned from the lifecycle manager to the fleet manager, and the cloud builder VM is gone. It's now the installer, and everything eventually will wind up in VCF operations. So yeah, you have to know how to use that product, how to build your dashboards, how to see the alerts, how to reach fleet management, how to go to configuration management, put components in maintenance. Those are very important topics you have to control in order to manage the whole product. So
yeah, and it does. I'm going. Yeah, you're right. In that, when I finally got VCF 9 up and running on the 3-node cluster that me and William and I have it in my desk now at VMware, I just remember the first time I got into all the consoles, whether you have operations or you have all the other ones. It was like going from a small university to going to a huge university. Right? There was just so much to learn, right? And I still haven't learned it all. And I'm like, yeah, okay, now there are like 4 consoles and they all have got sections, and just configuring all the functions in each one of the, each one of the consoles is like, going to take me months, right? So it's just a level bigger.
Yeah, operations has got a lot, it's a single pane of glass thing, like all of that stuff is coming together. You don't have to use automation. Automation is going to be the front door for users and things like workload admins and stuff like that. And that's what it's intended for, and that's evolving too. But on the VCF admin side, the guys like us that just want to that are just running the infrastructure. Yeah. VCF operations is going to be key. And you don't have to deploy everything. I mean, you need VCF operations, at least a minimal install there to do the licensing and that now in 9. But yeah, it'll deploy all the rest of it. It'll automate the rest of it. But just figuring out there's still some gaps and cracks there, interface stuff. There's a lot of user experience work going on the back end here that we'll see in 9.1 and in 9.2. That sort of thing. But I like the vision for it, but you guys are absolutely right. It's a little complicated at the moment. I think, and we know that, we know that it is, but
I think there's just a lot of, I don't want to harp on the complicated bandwagon. I like the idea that there's just a lot that you get to do now. I feel like it's Mount Everest and you have many different routes up the mountain. And once you learn one route, you got like 7 other routes you should probably learn.
And that's where I was going, was like, but the functionality you get, is great, and so, and again, you can choose how much of that you want to use. If you don't want to deploy the logs side of things, you don't have to, or whatever, but just monitoring and all that stuff, especially in situations where you're trying to protect infrastructure and kind of bring it in, build like dark sites or, air gapped environments and that, where connecting to a lot of organizations have air gaps within they're not completely air gapped. They're just have an environment inside their organization that's air gapped. And, having these tools, having monitoring tools, having, all of these tools available inside that air gap just natively are really powerful. So yeah, I don't know. It's coming along, in my opinion, but that's also why a lot of people are watching curiously what's going on in 9.0, 9.1.
So Eric, you're in Germany, right? Are you
Netherlands?
In Netherlands. Oh, yeah. You're one of the Netherlands guys, right? How could I? Well, you said you were going to go to the Germany,
Frankfurt.
explore on tour, so I just assumed you were there. But nonetheless, are you seeing interest? Like we see a lot of VCF people that are finally now moving to it, right? Or deciding, okay, either buy because Broadcom requires them to, or AI is pushing them back on prem, and they're looking that. And you're doing education. Are you seeing more and more people starting to take serious, like, I need to learn this stuff?
Yes, indeed. I see some traction happening now, and I think people realize that their current environment is tied to service level agreements, and they made some design choices, and they are not able to step to another product like Proxmox, for instance, because you don't have any micro segmentation, you don't have the scalability, you are depending on so much options you currently have, so it's not easy to step away to another platform, and it's the best out there. So eventually, people will realize that this is the only way forward. And I see that people are now, want to get a heads up for VCF9. They are willing to invest in the product. They are willing to learn. It's new, it's shiny, and we are now over the phase that we have to get used to it. It's the only way forward.
Yeah, that's what I think that's why you're seeing the Explore on tour numbers selling out, right? Because people are going like, oh, okay, this is where I'm going. They've made the decision, and now you have to do the heavy lifting. And it'll be interesting to see. We're seeing a lot of the certification on the admin cert, right? But as you point out here, there's a big architectural component that you need to learn, because you need to be able to set up your instance where you're not having these type of failures, right? Yes. And it is the architecture that everybody's going to have to come to terms with as well.
As a matter of fact, they're offering a free certification in Frankfurt. I'm going to write the architect exam there, so I have to learn for the coming weeks to get on the right level. But there is a training course regarding architecture and design, and I went through the slides, and it's good. It's really, it hits all the topics, and the content is great. So I would recommend everyone to follow that training course. It's definitely a good start.
So you talk about the police station, or I'll say police station. I know it's more than that, but are you working for VMware out at a customer site, or are you part of another organization now? And how are you writing exams for certification?
No, taking the test.
You're taking the test. Okay, I just misunderstood that. All right. You're sitting for one. Got it.
And he's part of the police. He's the man.
Yeah, he's the man. That's what I thought. But then when you said you're writing, but I misunderstood that. So you are going to
turn him into a customer.
That. Yeah. Well, that's what I thought, and that's kind of where I want to go in the end of my career. Is back at a customer, and learn the stuff and use the stuff that I've spent my life talking about. It's kind of cool. So you're setting, you passed your admin, I assume, and you're going to sit for your architect?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed. Yeah.
And are they offering that for free? I know they did the admin for free, but I don't know about architect.
You can choose any certification you want. They all have the same price, and you can choose whichever one you want. And the thing is that the entrance fee is not that. If you compare it to the price you normally have to pay for a certification, you can go for free, more or less.
Right. It basically wrapped up that. And that's to the point of, Broadcom is offering training and certification at as low a price as they possibly can get. As long as they get some money back because they can pay the vendor that gives a test, they're like, we're fine. We don't want to make any money out this. We just want to teach people how to get there. Right. We make money on licenses, right? Not on service, not on training, not anything else.
Use this stuff.
Right.
Know how to use it in that.
Which,
I mean, sorry to screw up your business model there, Eric, but the in general, it's been a positive thing.
Yes, I otherwise I never would have switched. I still would deliver training courses, and this was a great opportunity for me to go into the real world. I'm pretty happy with it. No worries.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, most people have transitioned and moved on with whatever that is in the ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
I was even talking to Julia Klaus yesterday, about what she's up to, and she's left. She announced on LinkedIn that she's left. She used to be our video person that helped us do the podcast, and even she's like happy. She's kind of like, I like where I'm going, right? So there is always life after change, right? Change is constant. You get some,
just an attitude thing, really.
Yeah, you get rattled, and then you are who you are, and you find something else cool to do. Right. So Eric, what do you think are the challenges? We've been going for 45 minutes now, right? What do you think your 2026 challenges are going to be, operating in your environment or in bringing people along on the journey? What do you think are the challenges for next year?
Yeah, in the coming weeks, we have some meetings with people from Broadcom in the Netherlands, and Jan Willem Lammers has initiated that meeting, and Hans Peskens, and they will come over to do some preliminary talks and see where we can go. So we are tied to a design that is okayed by Broadcom, and that we cannot step away that easily from the current design. So I think the beginning of 2026 will be how can we fit in the whole VCF9 construct into our environment and see if it fits, and if we still are able to keep up with all the service level agreements. And I think then the fun part will start, where we actually will start to run a proof of concept and see if it works out well, and eventually the product must be implemented. That's definitely a big project that's coming up. As a matter of fact, I'm working for Atos, and Atos is renting out a data center to the Dutch police. So we are serving more customers from Atos, and we're trying to create a standard, a new offering, so more customers can also benefit from this. So cool. There will be some very interesting projects ahead of us. Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I saw some, Bob, I'll let you comment, but on the cloud vendors now starting to get ahead of 9 and starting to offer up services and delivery of 9 services, right? Which was the first I've actually seen that, right? And it was just this week that I heard, one of the vendors talking about that, and I'm like, oh, the cloud vendors are now trying to catch up on offering data center services, not in the cloud, but maybe in the cloud, and with 9, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's because of the political situation. So we got a lot of pressure from Trump when we're using Office 365 from Microsoft, but also the mail is hosting on Gmail. I'm talking about regular companies in the Netherlands, not specifically about Atos or the Dutch police, but a lot of companies are depending on cloud services, but they realize that you're vulnerable for closing down those services for whole Europe. So a lot of companies are now investing in a private cloud to get back their own data center and not be depending on tariffs or other stuff that they
just stuff in the world. Like Amazon crashed last week again, and you're like, if I were one of those people, I'd be on that service. I'd be like, all right, I'm done. Let's just bring it back on prem. I need to control it.
Yeah, trust. I talk a lot about trust in environments, and the public cloud requires an immense amount of trust, and it's not optional, and so finding out that your data isn't in the country that you left it in, it's been replicated somewhere else, or even just being even here in the US, if I choose a data center in California and California bans AI or something, like how's my business? I built a business process around using AI for something. How's that going to work? And being able to pick it up and move it and know that it's going to stay there and know exactly where you're at. That's a really powerful thing. So it's not surprising at all. In general, we call it data sovereignty, and workload sovereignty in that, and just knowing what other people can do to you. And these other people are also politicians, what they can do to you. Really important.
Yeah, indeed. There are a lot of companies who have data that should be on Dutch ground.
Yes.
They're obligated to guarantee that it's not hosted anywhere outside Holland. So, those are interesting environments. Yeah.
I got my concrete saw and I cut a big hole in my garage floor, meter by meter and a meter deep. I put my big safe in. That's where we're putting my gold bars, right? And I'm keeping my gold and I'm going all on-prem.
Eric?
Yeah, exactly. No more Bitcoin, no more cloud services. It's all just big gold bars in my garage floor. Like sometimes I wonder, right? Sometimes I wonder how to risk manage everything, but certainly risk management's something you got to worry about, and getting your architect exam hopefully will head you down that path, right? Because there's a lot of risk in all the components you're building, right? So interesting times. Okay, so that's what you got going on for 2026, right? It's the understanding the 9 roadmap and how you get there and what you guys need to do, as many of our customers have experienced this as well. So you get that fun.
And I noticed I have heard a rumor about one specific NSX feature that's going to be released in the future, and that's an edgeless deployment. So the whole edge will be in the kernel of the ESX host. And that's something that will definitely change my design. So layer 2 inside the host directly.
Well, and you can see some of that beginning in 9 as well, where when you're installing, you've got the option to just do you want to deploy extra stuff, or do you just want to let ESX handle it? And it's like, just let it do it for me. Thank you.
Yes.
Just reduce the complexity. Yeah, NSX is sort of, I don't want to say evaporating, but getting integrated directly into ESX, and it's glorious. And VPCs, virtual private cloud functionality too.
Sign me up. I'm ready. I'm ready for that.
We can do it
also the vSphere client is also equipped with the UI of NSX. You can perform tasks directly from the vSphere client, manage your firewall rules, deploy tier 1, tier 0 gateways. It's great. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and then when all that stuff just kind of goes away as much as it can, and just becomes simpler, and those are the cycles we're starting to get into now, it's like, how do we, now that we've got everyone in one place, because, VCF before you could see the seams in the organization, who is doing what and all that, now that we're all one big happy family, more or less, how do we get rid of those seams? How do we get rid of the extra pieces? How do we just make it simple? And that weighs heavily on our minds on the product side. So,
yeah, you can see that it's now one business unit, and all the products are matching far better together. They're better combined than in the past. They're not separate entities anymore. It's all glued together now.
Yeah, and I will say that on the, not to say too much, but on the product side of things, thinking about things holistically, in the security space, FIPS, the U.S. federal government information processing crypto standards, and that, do we have the same level of everything across all of the components, and why not? How do we fix that? And that becomes a very big priority, to just make it, if we can't get rid of it, make it all look the same from a functional perspective.
Yeah.
Work in progress.
All right. Well, we've been streaming for 53 minutes now. So
goodness.
as we get up to the end of the show, Eric, how do people find you? You give us your blog again, and then are you on X or Twitter? Do you have a handle? Where can people read and follow you?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, ntpro.nl. I'm also on X. It's at eSloof, one word. I'm on LinkedIn /ntpro. I'm on YouTube. All the links are on top of my blog right there. So you can
Yeah, all right. So
easily.
if you're listening to this podcast, eSloof at ESLOOF.
Correct.
So yep,
Spot on.
yeah,
Yes.
spot on. So you can find him there and track him down and check out his blog. It did trend, and so people have seen it already, but go out and check that out. And we appreciate you coming on the show. So we do live stream on V Barbecue, so youtube.com/VBARBECUE. You can give us a like and a follow if you want to over there, and you can see what we look like. So if you want to see what Eric Sloof looks like and say hello to him in Germany at the Explorator.
Netherlands.
But he's going to the Explorator.
True.
I only make the same mistake 1 or 2 times per podcast. So I got it.
Oh no, he did it.
Hey, he got the name right. He got the name right.
Got it right. And then V Barbecue. We always end with a barbecue report. So I will ask you: do you get to do any barbecue in the Netherlands? And if so, what do you make? And if you don't make anything, are there any good places there that you like to get barbecue? And what do they barbecue in the Netherlands? Is it like sheep or some other animal? And what do you got out there?
Similar animals to ours.
All right.
So I took my son to one of these workshops with those green eggs. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Sure,
And so we are experimenting with these green eggs now and do spare ribs on it. And it's I was impressed by the amount of the amount of flesh you can really cook on there. So that's the thing we do right now.
Flesh? We're calling it flesh? The amount of flesh. Yeah. Meat. Not flesh. Not flesh.
Yeah, it's something flesh.
So Bob, I haven't done any barbecuing, but I went through a lot of barbecue early, like in May, June of this year, like where I smoked so many things that I jumped the shark. I had too much smoke. I thought about the smoke flavor and I was like, I can't eat any more smoked meat. But I just thought a couple days ago that we're going to invite some people over. We're going to smoke some ribs because it's been now 4 or 5 months, and that feeling of me.
Ready again,
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to smoke some ribs. So I'm going to do some ribs and invite a couple people over that really like smoked food. And you were mentioning something about you had a problem.
So I did a turkey. So in the U.S., the end of November is Thanksgiving. America.
Are you practicing? Were you practicing?
Well, it's the season now. If you go to the grocery store here in the U.S., where turkeys are a loss leader, basically, instead of paying $2 or $3 a pound for a turkey, it's like 49 cents or 99 cents a pound. And so if you buy like $25 worth of other groceries, which is like one thing nowadays, you get a turkey for 99 cents a pound or whatever. So I got a turkey the other day because I buy a few of these and put them in the freezer. And but I got a turkey the other day and I thought, hey, this would be a nice thing. A nice big turkey. We could use it for leftovers and sandwiches throughout the week and whatnot. And so did a turkey on my Green Mountain smoker. Terrific. It turned out really well. I brined it for a day and a half from frozen. I used the Meat Church. It's like bird baptism brine or whatever. That's really good. And just put it in a cooler and just let it sit. And it was fine. And we were eating this thing and all that stuff. And my daughter, I needed to go get my daughter from soccer. And a football for European crowd. And so went to go pick her up, and I had turned up the smoker to like 400 degrees to burn off the stuff and just kind of clean it. I was going to come back and scrape it and generally maintain it. And I start getting calls and texts from my neighbors. Apparently my grease drain was plugged and backed up and it caught fire. And all of a sudden, so I get home and there's this black smoke throughout the whole neighborhood. Right. It smells like stuff is burning. Well, stuff was burning. And I happened to look, I use a Fireboard external thermometer unit, and it was reporting that the internal temperature was 790 degrees.
Oh,
wow!
That'll start.
I'm surprised it was still reporting, honestly. And there's sparks coming out of the exhaust and all that stuff, and so. Yeah, so I just shut it off, and I shut it off remotely when my neighbors were calling me, and then my wife starts texting me like, "There's something going on outside," But I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be home in a couple minutes here," but trying to get my daughter to hurry up. Let's go. The house is on fire. So.
Yeah, well, that's what I ran into when I smoked that fish the other day. I had smoked some mackerel, and it was wonderful. But when I first started up, I realized you got to clean things every once in a while, right?
And Corey's advice to put down aluminum foil. I did not follow that, and so my brilliant idea was, I'll just turn up the heat and let it carbonize everything, and then I can scrape it off later. Jokes on
nice. Eric Sloof, thanks a lot for joining us over this afternoon. It's always good to see you. Yep. Thanks for working hard and writing your blog and teaching people. People are appreciated, and I appreciate it. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right, we'll be back again next week. We actually have, I think, 4 weeks of guests lined up, so excited about that. Yeah, from the community. Nice. So a lot of community topics to cover. We went and looked at advocacy.broadcom.com where people submit their articles, and there's a lot of great content out there. So the community is really stepping it up when it comes to interesting blogs around VCF9, and that's great. So got some guests queued up. See you again next week.
Later.
Thanks.